Alright everybody, welcome back to Oof to Premium, and in this edition I'm going to go over a new concept. It's really one that I've been kicking around a very long time, but I couldn't work out the details, couldn't get it nailed down. And so in the meantime I finally have figured it out with a little help from friends and family. And so what we're presenting here is a new concept called locked in the market. And that simply means if you place a marker token in the market, like so, and I place it on a crop, like, I don't know, squash, then that is said to be locked in the market. And what that does is, well, it's twofold. The first thing it does is it makes it so that nothing else, no other game event, can move that item in the market. It's locked permanently so long as that marker token is placed on there. But the other thing that it does is it also provides universal protection to all the other growers who happen to have that crop, right? And so it's the only case where a marker token is protecting an asset that's not entirely owned by you. It's a sort of a universal umbrella, if you will. Okay, and so that's something to bear in mind before you do it. What are the game events that move the items in the market? Well, that should be easy. That's easy for any Oof to Advanced players, right? But for everyone else, we'll just go through it briefly here. There's the die roll 2. That's the typical crop swap in the market. The other possibility is fulfilling the 6 crop minimum rule, right? You always got to have 6 in the weight cue tray. Whenever you fulfill that, you usually have to discard something, and that creates movement in the market. Other possibilities are penalties, right? Penalties from sabotage. If you're negotiating a bunch of different things, that could also add to market volatility, right? And so there's a whole host of things, right? So, at any rate, at the 5 token marker level, all right, if you place it in the market, it protects against all those game events that will move that particular item, with one exception. And the exception is this lovely item here. You guessed it, our good friend Trading House, right? So just to recap, since there have been a few game changes, perhaps since you last saw a video, the Trading House is actually worth 18 tokens, and it is the item that lets you swap anything in the market with anything else in any position. So it's pretty cool, it's pretty nice. It's also an activity. So what does that mean? Well, if you happen to own the Trading House, you are the only person who has the ability to move something in the market. Okay, so even if that item is considered locked because there's a marker token on it, if I own the Trading House, I use an activity, I can still move that item. Now, all of that said, there is one way to overcome the beneficial power of the Trading House. If you're a person who's sitting there and you don't have the Trading House, you can basically one-up it by simply paying for another marker token. And that marker token is going to go right up here on the same crop, right? So now, if you have double protection, you have 2 marker tokens worth, and mind you, that has to be on the crop that's in the market. It has no bearing on whether you have marker tokens in your crops in the fields, okay? So you got to make sure that distinction is in place, right? So anyway, we have our 2 marker tokens on squash. That means it's fully protected from all game events, including the Trading House. Okay, so nothing can affect it, but as per usual, there's also exceptions to that rule. And the exception is if you just absolutely have to have something move that item, the way to do it is chip away at the marker tokens, and that corresponds to the other rules that are already in place regarding marker tokens. You know, if you roll a die roll 6, sabotage and double sabotage, then that's the means of removing the marker tokens. Okay. Now, what you can't do though is you can't use adversity cards, right? So if you play an adversity card and you wanna wipe out somebody's marker tokens, you can't do it with any marker tokens that are present in the market, okay? Because those are a special scenario, right? Again, they confer universal protection to all growers at once, and so it's a little bit more tricky than just playing adversity cards. You have to come in with sabotage or double sabotage. Those are the only ways, those are the only actions that allow for anyone to remove those market tokens and once again make the crop vulnerable to any game circumstance that requires market movement. Okay, you know, the marker tokens, by the way, that's another fine point. When you remove marker tokens via double sabotage or sabotage, it goes back into the hunger token depository, and then the squash moves up. I mean, it moved. I should say that. Let me back up. I took 2 actions to do that, right? Just because I take the marker tokens off doesn't mean that the crop automatically moves, right? So that's another point to bear in mind. All I'm doing is removing the barriers so that in the future the squash can in fact move. Now notice that, you know, I could move that squash even if I had I've already used up my 2 actions, because there might be an activity available on your turn as per the general rules of UVTA that allows you to move that squash, right? So there's just myriad options, lots of combinations in place where you can take advantage of whatever opportunities come your way. If you want to either lock something into the market with super good protection with marker tokens, or on the opposite end, try to remove something, try to get it moving, and maybe disable your opponents, right? Or at least slow them down. Okay, so I hope that's clear. I don't think it requires any more explanation. You can always rewind this tape to go over the finer details. But if you have any further questions, just let me know. And thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone. Bye.